So today in the program we were focusing on question 5 on the November 5th ballot. There are 5 ballot questions if you're not aware. Question 5 has to deal with minimum wage for tipped workers. And a yes vote on question 5 would increase the minimum hourly wage that an employer must pay a tipped worker to the full state minimum wage, which is $15 an hour right now, implemented over a 5-year period. Then employers could pool any tips and distribute them to all non-management workers, so cooks, back of house staff, things like that. A no vote would make no change in the law governing tip pooling or the minimum wage for tipped workers. So joining us today to talk about the no aspect of question 5 is Gretchen Shelgren. And Gretchen is a employee of Mamma Mia's restaurant chain, and she's here to tell us a little bit about herself and why she thinks this is a bad idea. So Gretchen, nice to meet you, first of all.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming over. Talk a little bit first of all about yourself.
Sure.
And where you work and how you got involved with this issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I work at Mamma Mia's in South Plymouth. I have been in the restaurant industry for 38 years, since I was 13. I've done everything: bartending, serving, cooking. I've done it all. I first became aware of this issue in, I believe it was February of this year, when the Massachusetts Restaurant Association was having a special hearing at the State House to try to stop this question from going on the ballot.
Right.
And so I was asked if I would like to come give my personal testimony and thoughts and feelings on it, which I did. And that's how I first heard about this and got involved.
Okay. You were asked by your employer.
My employer if I would like to give a testimony. So I did. I went to the State House and said my piece, spoke about it, my thoughts, feelings on the issue.
So what are your thoughts and feelings about it, Gretchen?
My thoughts and feelings are, I'm personally against this.
Okay.
And I feel like when you first read the question, it comes off as like, it makes people think that they're doing something good. Like, of course you want everybody to make minimum wage. But the reality is every employee in the state of Massachusetts is already guaranteed to make at least minimum wage, including tipped employees. So if I work a shift and I don't make the minimum wage with my tips and the minimum wage they give me, my work is already required by law to give me a full minimum wage. So we already have this protection in place. And secondly, if this law is actually implemented, it's going to devastate the restaurant industry. Every restaurant will have to raise prices. There will be service charges. It's the only way that they'll be able to sustain. And people tip less. And then you would be required, or could be required, to pool all of your tips. So your prices will go up, there'll be service charges, people will tip less, more than likely, and I could have to split my tips. It'll literally make me a minimum wage worker.
So right now you earn more than the minimum wage, you would say?
Triple.
Really?
On average, yes.
Okay. So, and now is that on a typical steady scale? Because that's
Yes.
the argument. That's
Oh,
the argument
yes.
for this, is
Yes.
that it's not a stable income. You can't
It
predict.
is, and I've talked to a lot of people in the restaurant industry, and that's why we do what we do, is because we make a great living being able to work shorter hours than like having to go work 9 to 5. I can work 4 or 5 hours at night and make a lot more money.
Okay. So right now, the tip to minimum for tipped workers, as yourself, is $6.75 an
Correct.
hour? Okay. And then any tips that you get, do you pile that on top of that $6.75?
Right, that gets added.
Okay. And if it goes above $15 an hour?
It stays as is.
Okay.
But if it's below, then your work makes up the difference. So
Okay.
we're already guaranteed to make the minimum wage.
Yes. Okay.
Which I think a lot of people aren't aware of.
So it comes down to a matter of who pays, basically, because
Right.
you're already being
Right.
paid.
I mean, this will fall back on the customer.
Right.
And people, you'll see small businesses probably not be able to sustain. Yeah, employers possibly would have to have less employees on per shift. And then dining experience could be so expensive, people could go out less frequently. I just think it's a bad decision.
How do your coworkers feel about it?
My coworkers all feel the same way.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
I know that, that the feeling is, from folks on your side of the question here, is that if customers learn that, oh, they're already making at least $15 an hour, so I don't have to tip as much.
Absolutely.
The typical standard's what, 20% on the bill?
Yes.
Okay. So they may say, oh, I'll just give 10%.
Right, but you're making minimum wage, and so it will actually lower your wage. Now, I personally lived in Washington State for 12 years as a bartender and a server. And Washington State is one of the 7 states that doesn't have a separate minimum tipped wage. They never have. It's one of the states that the other side references.
Yes.
And my direct experience there for 12 years as a bartender was people on average tipped about 10%.
Okay.
I made significantly less money, even though I made a full minimum wage. I make more here making less per hour on the books for a minimum wage, that is.
Do you think as the system is right now that it incentivizes folks like yourself in the service industry to do a better job?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I will rethink my life if this passes, because why would I want to work so hard for less? You know, like, I pride myself on giving great service. I feel like my income with tips and stuff is sort of in my control. You know what I mean? People tip on service. They don't have to tip.
Right.
They tip on the connections and, you know, the rapport that we have.
Yes, yeah. But of course the argument for this is that if I know I'm going to make at least the minimum, then I can, you know, my bills don't fluctuate
Right.
like my,
But we
like my
already
tips
are
do.
guaranteed to make the minimum.
Right.
So why change it?
Okay. So again, it comes down to who pays,
It does come down to who pays,
Yeah.
you know?
customer or the restaurant.
Right.
The Mass Restaurant Association is opposed to this. As you mentioned, they tried to stop it
Yes.
from getting on the ballot. As I
Absolutely.
understand, they just kind of ran out of time in their legal fight.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact
Yeah.
reasons as to why.
And
but-
there were enough signatures to put it on the ballot, so it's question 5
Yep.
on November 5th. Now, interestingly, the way it works if it does pass is that the minimum will be implemented in phases,
Sure.
starting next year and then running through 2029 when it would be brought up to the full $15
Correct.
per hour. But after that, any tips would be pooled, is
Correct. That's huge.
According to
According to this,
the
yes.
law, yeah. Okay, so why are you opposed to that?
Because I don't tips when you come into my bar, my place, you're tipping me based on the direct experience that you have with me. And I mean, I do tip out support staff, but I just think it's unfair to have to share them with everybody.
Okay, so support staff, busboys.
I tip my busboy, you know, people that are, you know,
Directly
and now
involved,
your
yeah.
back of the house cooks, they make a lot more money already. That's why they're not getting a tip, because they make, you know, a minimum of $10 more an hour.
Right, right, okay. So you're voting no.
I am voting no, hard no.
It's a hard no on that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You said you would rethink your life if
Yes,
this
because
passes.
my experience, like I said before, working in this system, of
Yeah.
making a full minimum wage and pooling my tips, it cut my income in half.
What would you do if it does pass?
I honestly don't know. I'd probably have to get a second job, maybe. I mean, I'm 50 years old. I've done this for 38 years. I'm not really sure what I would do,
Okay.
to tell you the truth. But I don't want to have to work more to make the same, you know.
Right. And it's important to point out you're here speaking on your behalf.
On
right?
my behalf, yeah.
Yeah.
That I feel very, this is my income. This is my livelihood. This is
Yes.
directly going to affect my life. And all of my peers in the same industry, like, they feel the same way.
Well, I want to thank you for coming by and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you.
And we'll see what happens after November 5th.
All right, I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching us here at AM Quincy. I'm Joe Catalano. See you next time.